Okay, so I'll just go from this up here. So this is a manual transmit receive switch. You don't need to do that if you got this. I forget what this is. Monitor. That you might actually want to turn on and off. Oh, this is a speech compressor. That's if you want your voice to sound more punchy. This is the monitor. That you want off when you're using. When you're doing voice. Let's see if I switch to. Hold on a second. Just double check to see if I. So you have to turn the Vox off. I don't think the anti-Vox is set right.
You do another flower. Right.
Yeah, you have to turn. If I've used it in Morse code mode, I have to use the Vox to automatically make the radio go into transmit when I key down here on the key. The Vox being pressed in is necessary. But when you use voice, use the press to talk right here. So this is full break. Oh, let me stay in order here. So compressors to make the voice more punchy. Monitor, that should be off. Test 1 2, test 1 2, test 1 2. Yeah, it's not feeding back like it was the other day. Because you put the monitor on, it might feed back. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Did you hear the station monitor? There's like you can hear the sound from the microphone coming out there.
Oh.
But you don't want that because it could feed back. But the Vox might be turned up. Well, we'll take a look at that. The Vox gain. I think that's probably down here. It's probably set too high, but we'll get back to that. So the AGC is like the automatic gain control. Like when it gets a stronger signal, it kind of backs off the sensitivity of the radio so it doesn't like overload. But you could turn it off and notice the meter doesn't respond at all. You can turn it on fast and the meter's like bouncing around really fast, or you can turn it slow and it smooths the whole thing out. So this is the meter control. This meter does everything. That's the SWR, that's reflected, the reflected power coming back in. You want it below 3 to 1. Power output, that's just how many watts it's putting out. ALC is the automatic limiter control. So when you talk, the ALC shows you want it within, on the meter, there's this little red bar right here, and you want it within that range. So if I talk, I've already set the mic gain so that it's appropriate. This is testing 1 2 3 kilowatt Quebec 6 United Papa. So it could be a little bit. Oh, mic gain's here. Testing kilowatt Quebec 6 United Papa. So it's staying within the red margin there. That means the microphone gain, this thing down here is set correctly. Kilowatt Quebec 6 United Papa for identification. So, okay, we covered that. That's the compression. I've never used that. But it shows you how much compression is how much the sound is getting compressed. That's the power amplifier current. That's the power amplifier voltage, but that's for when you're transmitting. Test 1 2, test 1 2. I don't use that too much. I usually leave this set in power output or SWR, just so that I know. Noise blinker is if you have the noise blinker on. It's good for pulse type noises like a automobile ignition coil noise, and that's how strong it is. That's not. Oh, you're all done?
short one. See if I can get in there.
That's if you have a automatic keyer, that's the speed for the automatic keyer. Or if you have a paddle, but you don't have a paddle, that's the Vox delay. That, like, if you're using the automatic, the Vox, like when you speak, it automatically talks. That tells how long it holds on for. The Vox is turned up too. It's too sensitive right now. Turn it down a little bit. Test, 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 test. 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. So I got the Vox on now. And the Vox delay just determines how long it's being held for. Kilowatt Quebec 6 United Papa for identification. So, AF gain is the volume, obviously. RF gain is how sensitive the RF side of the radio is, the front end of the radio. If it's really noisy, loud, you might be able to turn it down and get a little better dynamic range, but I don't mess with this too much. And this is the same thing here. That's a preamplifier. You wouldn't use that on a band that's already noisy, because it's going to make the performance of the radio worse. That's attenuation that like lowers the signal, and that might even be desirable on a noisy night like tonight. But I generally just leave it off. Squelch and tone. That's like a squelch, like a,
back on my CD, right?
yeah, exactly. Tone. It just makes it more trebly or more bassy. Maybe it sounds a little better in the middle. I don't know. Mic gain, it's kind of set ideally already, and then the RF power is this ring, like how many watts out. So it's usually 100 watts on all. It's not putting out 100 watts on this bottom band, at least not by the indication of the meter. These are the modes and a function button. The second function is right there. On do you see the little print that's beside it? If you hit the function and hit that, it'll reverse it. So normally SSB is lower sideband on 80 meters. It automatically does that. But say you needed upper sideband because you're doing digital or something like that, you can hit function and then that, and it'll flip it to the opposite one. But I just put it back in lower sideband by hitting it again. And the CW. Oh, it's even there more. Weird. I could have made it more narrow. I didn't realize that.
Take all those spare parts with you, 'cause some of them get lost or,
Put it in a baggie for you.
put it in.
We can sandwich a bag that we can seal.
So you're mostly going to be doing single sideband. RTTY is for radio teletype.
Right.
It has the ability that you can like put a serial signal straight to it, and it'll send radio teletype full power. You know, just it modulates it changes the frequency slightly for mark and shift. AM, you're not going to really use that. You can't. There are some AM people, but this doesn't put enough power. AM is not a very efficient mode, so unless you've got a really good path, they're not likely to hear you on AM. Because it has to cut down the power to like 25 watt. Yeah, 25 watts, because the carrier is going out the whole time. But I mean, you can't. Like, we could try to see if those AM guys are here and see if we can contact them. I think we're right here, 780 or 870. Man, it's noisy. Yeah, I don't hear them. Oops. That's tuning step. That makes it go fast if you want to get to a different part of the band. Looks like they are AM guys.
238,
No, that's sideband.
Trying to get
That's AM.
No, it's sideband.
back, which we have.
But I just wanted to show you that. But I've pretty much covered all these knobs here. These down here, that's the monitor gain. I set that for CW. I turned this off so you're not going to get the feedback loop. If you need the CW note to be louder, you can press that out. It pops out, and then you can adjust it. Yeah. And remember, if you did want to play with the Morse code, you'd have to put it on Vox or it won't transmit. So you basically you go like, here, let's go back down. You put it on CW, and that's the narrow filter, Vox, and that's all you have to do, and just press it so it can tune like that. And then to go back to sideband, you just hit sideband, and now see the Vox is taken automatically. It's, turn that off, and then you can either use the press to talk, or you can manually transmit like that. That's the manual transmit switch. So if you had like a desk mic or something here, like a boom mic or something, you can flick. Yeah, you can flick it, or you can put it on voice activated, the Vox. This is speech. I don't think it has this. Yeah, it doesn't have that feature. It's a little bored if you had visual impairment. If you hit that, it would tell you what frequency it's on. This is the direct entry. You can hit enter and you can directly punch in the frequency like that and hit enter. And that put me in the it does memories. I don't know if you can do memories. It actually has two VFOs. So if you hit VFO A equals B, then they're both set no matter what. See, it says VFO A, VFO B. They're both at the same frequency now. But see, note what frequency it's on. 3.550. I could come say move up here, and now I can quickly like go in between them. See, now it's back to 3.550. So it's like a little short-term memory, like to. And split, if you press split, which you don't want to unless you're.
I heard you talking about that today, earlier, or yesterday.
Yes, yeah. Split means that you transmit on one frequency and receive on the other. Like, so some DX guys, there's too many people like on the same frequency, so they'll split, or they'll transmit on one frequency and then they'll listen and actually not tell you, so it just spreads the people out because the pile is too big. So they'll listen up a few kilohertz and people, and they'll say, up, and that means you go transmit somewhere and maybe you'll get me just by the look of the draw. But you won't be using that anytime soon. The up and down is the bands. So that's 40 meters, 7 megahertz, 30 meters, 10 megahertz.
How do I know that though?
Memorize it or have like a little chart.
That you're gonna give me someday.
Yeah. But I'm recording this. I'll tell you all the bands that are on this radio. This is 160 meters, 1.9 megahertz. That's 80 meters, 3.5 to 4 megahertz. That's 40 meters, 7 megahertz. 30 meters or 10 megahertz. That's 20 meters or that's the ARRL again. Their call sign is W1AW. Let's see. So that's 20 meters. And then that's 17 meters or 18 megahertz. That's 15 meters or 21 megahertz. 12 meters or 24 megahertz.
You wanted me to make that for you?
That's 10 meters or 28 megahertz. And that's the top. Then it just rotates, it goes all the way through again. Yeah. So these are good night bands, 80 meters and 40 meters. and the other ones are better. Well, 30 meters is good 24 hours, and then 10 meters is usually a kind of a daytime band. And anything above 20 and above is more daytime. But if the sunspots get really strong, 20 becomes a night band.
Oh, does it really?
And then the higher bands start opening up. And we're getting there. I mean, it was starting to do that, and then it kind of chilled out a little bit, but it's kind of ramping back up. The sun's just been acting crazy. So, this, I would just leave this stuff alone for, I mean, this is IF shift, you could turn it on. Passband shift or IF shift, depends on which one of these you have selected. You can mess with this to kind of, but I mean, it's got a detent, so it kind of stays in the middle. The notch is like if there's a tone, like a carrier that's bugging you, you can like turn it on, and you can knock out the sound with it. The scan will scan through the memories.
I punched that today and it didn't do anything.
Yeah, because it probably doesn't have any memories right now because you probably changed the battery or something like that. I think I did used to have some memories. Let's see, where's the memory button? Yeah. Memory clear, memory to VFO. Yeah, there's some memories. They're still in there. Oh, that's the weather facts for the ships.
Oh, is it? No.
Band general coverage. Band, it means it's stuck in the hand bands, like, and the antenna tuner works in there. If you have it in general coverage, it'll receive anywhere from like a half of megahertz all the way up to 30 megahertz, like no gaps. Like you can, all the shortwave stuff you can listen to, because it's also a general coverage receiver, and it's a good receiver too. So that, you generally don't want it to say general right there. You want it to be in the hand bands. Mode, I don't know what that does. I'm trying to find where the memory recall is, where you could just tune through the memories. It's not that. I don't know what mode S is. I don't remember if I did know. I mean, you could get the manual, download the manual too. Receiver incremental tuning. That's if somebody's like kind of off frequency and you don't want to tell them to get on frequency. You could just tune the receiver and leave your transmit. Otherwise, you're just chasing each other all over the place. That was more important back in the day when the radios weren't necessarily perfectly calibrated. Maybe the guy's receiver transmitter is slightly two different frequencies or whatever. You can use that to compensate without, because if you move, then he's going to move, which is going to like, it's just going to be like a vicious circles. But you got to be careful that's turned off, because remember that was messing me up yesterday when I was trying to talk. That's delta transmit, so the receiver stays the same and it moves the transmitter, which you don't usually need to use that. That's if you were DX on an island and you were trying to do what, like I was telling you. Or you're trying to move around and find the guy. That's what I mean. If you were chasing DX and you don't know what the split is, you can like tune up and throw your call sign, tune up a little bit more, throw your call sign until he hears you. Yeah. So that is usable. That's to clear the delta tune or the receiver increment. So if I have this, you see it's off now. I can hit this or clear, and it resets it to 0. I'm going to turn that off because you really don't want it on unless you're using it. But like I said, and the filter buttons for the narrow wide filter, like the CW does have the narrow filter installed in the radio, so you can hear the difference.
Yep. The camera is visible wherever it is.
Even on AM, there's a wide AM filter too, so it's got all the filters installed. So yeah, with sideband, you can hear there's 2 different filters in. And these were pricey add-ons too. No, that doesn't have a different sideband filter. I don't think so. It does have the CW filter though.
Pitching it to another, you know, around
Hear the
the
difference?
around the range.
So that's narrow. So that's if there's more noise and you want to kind of like quiet it down a little bit. Or if there's another station like kind of jamming you on the side, you can like make it narrow so you can't hear him. Lock, it just locks the frequency, so the knob, turning the knob doesn't do anything. It turns that light on and lets you know it's locked. That's pretty much it. I think I covered the whole radio.